Good morning, boys and girls, and happy Friday. Today we are going to be problem solving time to the hour and half hour. So first we are going to warm up by drawing the hands on the clocks to represent the time shown. So to do this together, I want you to pause the video and draw 3 analog clocks. Make sure you have the numbers 1 through 12 in the spaces they need to be. So go ahead and do that, and then together we will draw the minute hand and hour hand. Ready? Pause. Okay, let's solve these together. So the first one says that the time is 5:30. So we need to draw the hands on the clocks to represent 5:30. My hour is 5, so I'm going to draw an hour hand pointing to the 5. Now remember, the hour hand is short, so it doesn't quite touch the 5. My minute is 30. It is half past 5 o'clock. And whenever my minute is 30, my big hand is pointing down. And that's the big hand, so it's almost touching the number. So this shows 5 is the hour, and then 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 is the minutes. It is halfway past 5. Half past 5 o'clock, it is 5:30. All right, now I want you to do this one on your own. Draw the hour and the minute hand so that this analog clock shows 6 o'clock. Ready? Go. All right, let's check your work. So the hour is 6 o'clock. So I'm going to draw my hour hand, my short hand, pointing towards the 6. And my minute is o'clock. And remember our riddle? When the big hand is at the top, it is o'clock. So the big hand needs to be pointing up. So this analog clock now shows 6 o'clock. And last but not least, draw the minute hand and the hour hand on this analog clock to show 11 o'clock. Ready? Go. All right, let's check your work. My hour is 11. So I'm going to draw my hour hand pointing to the 11. And my minute is o'clock. And remember our riddle? When the big hand is at the top, it is o'clock. So this analog clock now shows 11 o'clock. All right, which clock represents 11 o'clock? Now, I'm going to write the time for each analog clock and then determine which one shows 11. So let's take a look at the first one. The hour hand is pointing to the, very good, the 1. And the minute hand is pointing down. When the minute hand is pointing down, it is 30. So this clock shows 1:30. Now let's do this one. The hour hand is pointing to the, very good, 7. And the minute hand is at the top. And when the minute hand is at the top, we know it is o'clock. This analog clock shows 7 o'clock. All right, let's do the next one. The hour hand is pointing to the, awesome, 11. And the minute hand is at the top, and when the big hand is at the top, we know it is o'clock. So it looks like this clock represents 11, but let's do the last one just to make sure. The hour hand is pointing to the, very good, 4. And the minute hand is pointing down. And when the minute hand is pointing down, we know it is 30. It's halfway around the clock. It's half past 4. So this analog clock shows 1:30. This clock shows 7. This clock shows 11 and this clock shows 4:30. So which clock represents 11? Awesome. This clock represents 11 o'clock. All right, so this is what we are going to be working on today. Remember our I can statement? I can problem solve using time to the hour and the half hour. So we have a little word problem here. I'm going to read it to you and then you are going to watch me solve. This is an I do slide, so you are going to watch me solve this one. John has football practice after school. School ends at 3 o'clock. Soccer ends at 5 o'clock. Circle the time that John goes to soccer practice. So I think this up here should say soccer practice. So John has soccer practice after school. School ends at 3 and soccer ends at 5. So circle the time that John goes to soccer practice. First, I need to figure out what time each clock shows. So I'm going to start with my first one. The hour hand is pointing to the 3. And my minute hand is at the top. And when the minute hand is at the top, I know it is o'clock. Next, my hour hand is pointing to the 5. And my minute hand is at the top. So I know it is o'clock. And last, my hour hand is pointing to the 4. And my minute hand is at the top. And when my minute hand is at the top, I know it is o'clock. So we have clocks that show 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 4 o'clock. Now let's go back to our problem. John has soccer practice after school. School ends at 3 o'clock. So if school is ending at 3 o'clock, he can't go to practice at the same time school is ending. So it's not this clock. Soccer ends at 5 o'clock. Now I'm trying to figure out what time he goes to soccer practice. Not what time it ends, but what time it goes. So if soccer ends at 5, it can't start and end at the same time. So it's not this clock. Circle the time that John goes to soccer practice. It is this clock. He goes at 4 and it ends at 5. All right, let's do this one together. I'm going to read it to you, and then I want you to pause the video and figure out what time each clock shows. And then we'll solve it together. Jackson has soccer practice tomorrow. He doesn't have soccer practice at 2 o'clock. He doesn't have practice at 10 o'clock. Circle the time that Jackson has soccer practice. So when I say pause, I want you to pause the video and then figure out what time each clock shows. Ready? Pause. All right, let's figure out together what time each clock shows. So the first one, the hour hand is pointing to the 2, and the minute hand is at the top. So I know it is o'clock. The second one, the hour hand is pointing to the 4, and the minute hand is at the top. So I know it is o'clock. And the last one, the hour hand is pointing to the 10, and the minute hand is pointing to the top. So I know it is o'clock. Now let's do this together. Jackson has soccer practice tomorrow. He doesn't have soccer practice at 2 o'clock. So which one am I going to mark out? Very good. He does not have soccer practice at 2. He doesn't have practice at 10 o'clock. So which one can I mark out? Awesome. He does not have soccer practice at 10. Circle the time that Jackson has soccer practice. So the only time left is 4 o'clock. We know he doesn't have it at 2, and he doesn't have it at 10, so he must have it at 4. And now I'm going to write the time digitally, the time he goes to soccer practice, which is 4 o'clock. Very good. All right, now I want you to do this one all on your own. I'm going to read it to you, and then I want you to pause the video, figure out the time that each clock shows, and then solve the problem on your own. Madeline goes to school in the morning. She doesn't go to school at 9 o'clock. She doesn't go to school at 8 o'clock. Circle the time that Madeline does go to school, and then write the time in digital form. So what I want you to do is pause the video. I want you to figure out what time each clock shows, and then circle the time that she does go to school. Ready? Pause. All right, if you circled 7:30, you are correct. So let's go over it together. On the first clock, the hour hand is pointing to the 8 and the big hand is at the top, so I know it's o'clock. This clock shows 8 o'clock. The middle one, the hour hand is pointing to the 7 and it is pointing down, so I know it is 30. It is 7:30. So this clock shows 7:30. The last clock, the hour hand is pointing to the 9 and the minute hand is at the top. So this shows 9 o'clock. Now we know she doesn't go to school at 9, so it is not this clock. She doesn't go to school at 8, so it is not this clock. Circle the time that she does go to school, which is the clock in the middle, 7:30. And I also wrote it digitally. She goes to school at 7:30. All right, now it is your turn for your independent work. You have a seesaw activity. You are going to match the digital time to the correct analog clock. So for example, I am going to choose one digital form. So let's say I choose 9 o'clock. And then I'm going to figure out which analog clock represents 9, and I'm going to drag the digital form to the correct box under the analog clock. All right, so that is your activity for today. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.